Hi guys, I hope all of you are doing well. So I welcome you all to yet another video in this AWS data engineering certification course, and in this particular video we are going to see how we can launch the Oracle database instance inside our RDS. So in our previous few videos we have already talked about how we can launch MariaDB, how we can launch MySQL database, how we can launch Microsoft SQL Server database instance in our RDS service on the AWS cloud. In all these videos, we have not only launched the RDS service or the specific database engine service, but we also tried to connect it to with an EC2 instance using which we will be connecting with the database instance. What we did is we launched the database instance in a private subnet and we launched our EC2 instance in a public subnet. And based on that particular architecture, we try to secure our database instance. So if you are not aware about these concepts, I would recommend you guys, if you want to learn about how to launch a particular database engine instance, you can go and watch that particular video. Else you can continue watching this particular video, because in this video itself we will be following the same methodology. So with that said, let's get started with this video and let's get straight into the system. So here, as I have already told you guys, that we will be creating and connecting to an Oracle database instance. So this tutorial creates an EC2 instance and an RDS for Oracle database instance. The tutorial shows you how to access the database instance from the EC2 instance using a standard SQL client. As a best practice, this tutorial creates a private database instance in a virtual private cloud, that is a VPC. In most cases, other resources in the same VPC, such as EC2 instance, can access the database instance, but the resources outside the VPC cannot access it. Okay. So after you complete this tutorial, there is a public and private subnet for each availability zone in your VPC. In one availability zone, the EC2 instance is in the public subnet and the database instance is in the private subnet. So as I already told you that what kind of architecture we will be following in this particular video is that let's suppose if I talk about Oracle DB instance launch. Okay. So if I talk about this thing, right? So the architecture that we will be following here is, firstly, we will have our region, right? The topmost thing, okay? The topmost thing that is available in AWS for launching any service is the region, right? We have already talked about these concepts, that what is region, what is availability zone, what is local zone, what is bandwidth zone, and all these concepts, correct? Then inside this region we can have multiple availability zones, right? So let's suppose this is availability zone 1, right? Let's say I am taking only one single availability zone in this case. Else there is a condition from AWS that inside one region there will be at least 3 availability zones that will be available, right? So for every region you choose, you will have at least 3 availability zones attached to that particular region. But currently I am just writing here as one single availability zone. So availability zone. Okay. So this can be my availability zone, right? Now inside this availability zone, what we will do is we will try to create our VPC, that is our virtual private cloud. Okay. So we will create our VPC, and inside this VPC we will be launching our services. So the very first service that we will launch will be an EC2 instance. Okay. Why will we be launching an EC2 instance? I will be discussing those things moving forward. Okay. So I will launch an EC2 instance, okay, here in my VPC. So I can say I will launch an EC2 instance. Okay. So this EC2 instance will be launched Okay, this EC2 instance will be launched inside a public subnet. So it will be inside a public subnet. Okay, something like this, right? Done. Now what we will do, the second job will be to launch an RDS instance. So here I am using a database symbol. Okay, so this is our RDS instance. Okay, and this RDS instance, or I can say Oracle DB RDS instance. Okay, Oracle DB RDS instance is launched, and this RDS instance will be inside a private subnet. So it will be inside a private subnet. Okay, so let me do it in this way. Okay, so now it's inside a private subnet. Now these two services, that is my EC2 instance and my Oracle DB, will be able to communicate to each other. Okay, so this communication and this communication is totally allowed. So I can change the color to green so that I can represent it as that a communication between both of these two instances are allowed. Why it is allowed? Because firstly, they are in the same VPC. Secondly, they will be having some kind of security groups. Okay, so the security group will look something like this. That EC2 RDSX will be a security group that will be attached to the EC2 instance, and RDS EC2X will be a kind of security group that will be attached to the RDS instance. Okay, and using this particular security group, they will be able to communicate each other. One more thing that we will be installing or we will be using to do this communication will be something called as Oracle client. Okay, so Oracle client is a kind of database package, I can say. Okay, just like communicating with any kind of database server, let it be MySQL, let it be Postgres, let it be Microsoft SQL server. Sorry, right? For communicating with any of these databases, we need some kind of client, right? We will need some kind of terminal, we will need some kind of UI or something using which we can communicate with that particular server, or we can communicate with that particular database engine, right? So to communicate with the Oracle database engine, we will have to install the Oracle client on our EC2 instance. Okay, so this is how basically our whole architecture will look like once we have completed this video. Okay, once we have created everything. Now you may ask that what is this public subnet, what is this private subnet, right? And why it is required. So it is required is because, let's suppose I am a user, right? I am a user here and I want to access, okay, I want to access the Oracle database instance. So these database instances have, or I won't say database instances, any service, right, has something called as endpoints. Okay, they have something called as endpoints, and based on this particular endpoints, we try to connect to that particular service. Our EC2 instance will be having some kind of endpoint, and our Oracle database will also have some kind of endpoint, and we will, using this endpoint, we will try to connect to these services. Okay, so if by any chance, okay, if by any chance this endpoint gets leaked, right, or maybe if some unauthorized user, even in my organization, right, in my organization itself, let's suppose a person who does not has the access, or who should not have the access of this database, gets to know about this particular endpoint, right? And if he has this particular endpoint, he will be directly able to connect to this RDS instance if it is not in a private subnet. Okay, if my RDS instance is in a public subnet, okay, if my RDS instance is inside a public subnet, in that case, any person or any user who is having this particular endpoint will be able to connect to the RDS instance. But I don't want to do it in this way. I want to make sure that my database instance is in a secure environment, that even though if you are having an endpoint, you will not be able to connect to the database instance until you are not able to connect to the EC2 instance. Okay. So this is how we will secure. Moving forward, let's say if I am writing user here, okay, user, okay. Moving forward, when we will try to launch this RDS instance, right, I will also try to show you in the diagram also that how I will try to secure a connection with the EC2 instance also. You can also say that, okay, my EC2 is in a public subnet, right? So anyone can connect to the EC2 instance and then he can directly connect to the RDS instance also. Then what's the use case, right? So how I will try to secure my EC2 instance from being accessed over the internet means anyone having the endpoint of EC2 instance can connect to EC2 instance. How I will be able to secure it, that thing also I will be showing you when we will try to launch our EC2 instance. Okay. So let's move forward. Sorry guys. Okay. Now the important point here is there is no charges for creating an AWS account. However, by completing this tutorial, you might incur cost for the AWS resources you use. You can delete these resources after you complete the tutorial if they are no longer needed. Okay. So there is no cost if you are trying to create an AWS account, right? If you are creating our AWS account, there is no charge for creating an account. Some people have this kind of confusion, right? Or this kind of doubt, I would say, that they feel like that even creating a cloud account will be a paid thing, right? They will be charged for it. But for creating an account, there is no charge. In fact, they try to give you some kind of free credits that you can use to explore the platform, right? They will not even charge you anything. Instead, they will give you from their side some kind of free credits, right? Free resources which you can use to explore and to learn the cloud platforms. Okay. However, by completing this tutorial, you might incur cost for the AWS resources you use. So if you are creating, or if you have created your account earlier itself, right, and your free tier access has been over, okay, it has been exhausted. In that particular case, if you are trying to create some kind of services and if you are trying to launch some kind of services, then in that particular case, you will be charged whatever according to the instance you are launching, whatever service you are using, according to the pricing tier of that instance of that service, you will be charged. Okay, and only for that much time for which you are using. So we will also make sure at the end of the video that we are deleting our instance once, or I would say we will be deleting our services that we have created at the end of the video. So you can delete these resources after you complete the tutorial if they are no longer needed. Okay. So the following diagram shows the configuration when the tutorial is complete. So this is exactly how the configuration will look like when the tutorial will be complete, or I would say when we will be done with like we have created everything that is given in this particular documentation, right? And you can see it is pretty much similar to this this architecture itself, right? We have our region, we have our availability zone. Inside this availability zone, we will have VPC because we are doing a single availability zone deployment. So in this case, we will have a VPC that is there inside a single availability zone. If we are going ahead with multi availability zone deployment, right, in that particular case, we can have one VPC which will expand itself, or which will be there in multiple availability zones also. Okay. So this tutorial allows you to create your resources by using one of the following methods. So use the AWS management console and use AWS management console, or use CloudFormation to create the database instance and the EC2 instance. Okay. So in this video, we will try to go ahead with the use of AWS management console. We will currently not use the CloudFormation thing. How we will be able to do using CloudFormation, I will be showing you guys it later on in the further videos, I would say. The first method to use, easy to create. The first method uses easy to create the private Oracle database instance with the AWS Management Console. Here you specify only the database engine type, database instance size, and the database instance identifier. Easy create uses the default settings for the other configuration options. Okay, so when we will try to create our database instances, we will have two methods or two options that we can choose from for creating that particular instance. Firstly, we will have an easy create, and the second one will be standard create, or usually we can call it as a full configuration mode. Okay, so we have an easy configuration mode and we have a full configuration mode. So if we are going ahead with the full configuration mode, some of the options or some of the configurations, right, which are by default in the easy create, we will also have an option to choose them according to our requirement. So when you use standard create instead, you can specify more configuration options when you create a database instance. These options include settings for availability, security, backups, and maintenance. So to create a public database instance, you must use standard create. For more information, you can go on to this particular link, right? So in this video, I'll be showing you both of the ways how we will be able to create an instance using the easy create and how we will be able to create an instance using the standard create. Okay. So topics, or I would say what all things we will be covering in this particular video. We will be skipping the concepts or the topics that are marked here as optional. Okay, because these things are done using the CloudFormation, which I will for sure show you in the upcoming videos. So here, first of all, we will try to create an EC2 instance. Secondly, we will try to create an Oracle database instance. Then we will skip this optional part. We will directly go to step 3, where we will connect our SQL client to an Oracle database instance. And then once we have launched the service, we have connected to the database instance, we will try to run a few queries. We will try to understand how we are communicating with the database instances. And once done, once we feel like that, okay, we have achieved the goal, we will try to delete the EC2 instance and the database instance. Okay, currently we will not be discussing how we will be doing it using the CloudFormation and how we will be deleting the instance using the CloudFormation. Then talking about the prerequisites. So before you begin, complete the following sections. Firstly, you have to sign up for an AWS account. Okay, so you should have the AWS account. So if you don't have any account or an account for any platform, right, obviously you will not be able to access that particular platform. So for sure you should have, or you should be signed up for the AWS platform. So it's pretty much easy, or I would say it's equivalent to how we create any kind of social media account. If you have created a Facebook or an Instagram account, you will be able to create an AWS account in the very similar way. You will have to first of all enter your email ID, right? You will have to enter your phone number. Then you will have to enter your password. You may get some kind of OTP or may receive some kind of link over your email, right? Because signing up processes change over time, right? So I don't exactly remember what all things we will get, but this is the kind of authentication just similar to any kind of social media platform that we have, right? Then how we will create create a user with an administrative access, right? So I have already discussed this particular thing in the previous video where I have shown you how we will be creating an AWS account. Okay, so once we have created an account on AWS, the main account, right, the account which we have created at the very first time is called as a root account. Okay, so it's generally recommended by AWS. It's not mandatory. Let me be very, very clear. It's not mandatory. You can do these things, what we will be doing in this video, with the root account also. Okay, but it's recommended by AWS that we should not use the root account for our day-to-day activities. Day-to-day activities means we should not launch any kind of services with the root account, right? We should not, let's suppose, use it or maybe give access of the root account to multiple users. Okay, instead what we should do is we should try to create individual users, right, from the root account based on their role and based on the kind of access that they require to get their job done. Okay, so this is recommended if you are doing it for your personal use, right? So I can say if you have not created any kind of administrative account till now, right, I can say that you can continue with the root account itself if you have your root account, right? And once you are done with this particular video, you can watch the video in which I have already told how you can create the administrative user account from your root account. Okay, and from that point of time, you can use your administrative user rather than your root user to do whatever things you will be doing forward. Okay. Now the first step here will be, so to create an EC2 instance. So firstly, create an Amazon EC2 instance that you will use to connect to your database, right? So as in the diagram also, we are already aware about that we will be launching an EC2 instance, and using this EC2 instance, we will try to connect to our database. Okay. So to create an EC2 instance, you can directly click on this particular link, or you can log into your AWS console, right? And like you can log into your AWS console, right? So let me first of all log into my AWS console. Okay, so here you can see I am not directly using my root account, right? I have created an administrative user from my root account, and from that particular user account, I am trying to access my AWS account. So here I have named my user as Vishal, and I have put up my password, and I can just click on sign in. So once you will sign in into your AWS account, okay, it will take a few seconds only. Okay, so once you will be signed in into your root account, or I would say into your AWS account, you will be shown a dashboard something like this, where you will have some widgets, right, in front of you. If you want, you can add more widgets and all those stuffs, right? Now if we have to create what, we have to create an EC2 instance. So what we can do, I can even directly click on this link, right? And if I am signed in, I will be directly redirected to the EC2 dashboard. Okay, so I'm redirected to my EC2 dashboard, something like this. Cool. Or what I can do is, if I have logged in using my console, so I can just click on this search bar and I can search for EC2. Okay, and I will just click on this link. It's taking a bit time because currently I'm using my phone's hotspot. Unfortunately, there is no electricity at my house right now, so my Wi-Fi is down. So I'm using my personal hotspot currently. Okay, I guess the internet is slow right now. Okay, so guys, even if you will search right here, if you search for EC2 and you click on this link, you will be redirected to the very same page. You will be redirected to this page itself. Currently, because the internet is a bit slow, I'm using my phone's hotspot, right? It's not getting redirected, right? And even what you can do is you can just click on this all services. Let me do one thing. If I try to duplicate it. Okay, and now if I go to my dashboard, okay, okay, let it be, right? So I hope you guys have understood, right, how we will be able to basically come to this EC2 service, right? Okay, it has opened the dashboard, right? And now what we can do is, okay, what I can do is I can click on this uh, three lines, right? I can just click on this all services. Okay, and here also I can see in the compute category, I will be able to see EC2, right? And if I click on this EC2, so here you will be able to see all the services that are there on the AWS cloud, and you will be it will be segregated on the category wise. So even in the quantum technologies, right, management and governance, container services, storages, databases, migration and transfer, network and content delivery, developer tools, analytics, customer enablement, blockchain, even the satellite is here, game development, internet of things, right? All these categories are present on the AWS cloud. Any kind of development, any domain, right, of technology that you are using, you will find at least one service for your use case on the AWS platform, and these things are getting added on a daily basis. Okay, so you will be redirected to this page. Now in the top right corner of the AWS management console, choose the AWS region in which you want to create the EC2 instance. Okay, so if I come on to this particular page, on the top right, you can see here that currently the region in which we are in is the United States North Virginia region, right? Which is I sorry, which is I would say is the oldest region, right? This was the very first place from where AWS started its journey, right? So this is the most oldest region, and out of all the services, right, so there is a limitation on region wise, that in maybe in some regions or some newer regions, I would say some of the services are not available, but North Virginia is the region in which each and every service which is listed on the AWS cloud platform will be for sure available in this region. Okay, now we will talk about that how we should select our region, right? So currently for this particular video or for this use case, what we are having is we are doing a personal kind of thing. We are doing a learning kind of thing, right? So in this case, we should choose a region which is closer to us, or I would say closest to us, right? So currently, because I'm in India, right, in New Delhi, so I will be choosing maybe the Mumbai region, or maybe I can choose the Hyderabad region. Okay, so let's go ahead with Mumbai region because it is a bit older, right? Hyderabad is one of the newest regions which have been created. So not very sure, right, what all services will be available and all those stuffs. In Mumbai region, almost all the services that we require in our data engineering thing is available, right? So we will try to use the Mumbai region. Okay. Now, if I'm doing some kind of production level thing, okay, if I'm doing some kind of production level thing, in that particular case, we should choose the region that is closest to uh, our not I would say users, but the highest chunk of users. Okay, let's suppose if we have created some application or maybe a web app which is majorly used in the USA region, and some users from different part of the world are also using it, but the highest chunk, or I would say most of the traffic, is from the USA itself. And even though I am operating it, I am developing it, I am maintaining it from the India itself, I will try to deploy my resources and my machines in the USA region. Why? So that the data transfer is not that much, not only data transfer, the latency is not that much, right? If let's suppose my instance is in Mumbai region and someone is requesting from USA, right, the request will have to travel all the way from Mumbai, from all the way from USA to Mumbai, and then even the response will be traveling all the way from Mumbai to USA, right? So why to create this kind of, even though it will be in a few seconds only, or even in a fraction of seconds, right? But even why to create that particular latency when we have the power, we have the ability of the cloud platforms that we can utilize, so that we can launch the instances, the machines, at the nearest possible regions of our users, right? So this is how exactly we should be working in case of a production. Okay. So now guys, our region has been changed, and now we are using what? Now we are using the Mumbai region. Okay. Now let's move forward. So choose the EC2 dashboard and then choose the instance launch as shown in the image below. So here you will be able to see, right, a button, something called as launch instance. So here if I come, okay, so here you can see I can just click on this launch instance, or I can also click on this view dashboard. Okay, so this is the dashboard of our EC2 instance. Right here you will see all the instances that are running, dedicated host, key pair, and all those stuffs are listed here. Right here you can also see the different availability zones that are available in this particular region, that is our Mumbai region. So it is AP South 1A, right, AP South 1B, AP South 1C, right? These are the three availability zones that are available. Okay. So here I will come on this particular button and I will click on launch instance. Okay. Now I will be redirected to this launch an instance page. So the launch an instance page opens, correct? So we are on the right path. So choose the following settings on the launch an instance page. So under the name and tags, for name, enter this. Okay. So let me just copy it. That is EC2 database connect, and I will put it in the name tag. Now under the application and OS images, Amazon machine image, choose Amazon Linux and then choose Amazon Linux 2023 AMI. Keep the default selections for the other choices. Okay, so I will come back here, right, and here in the applications and images, okay, I will do what? I will click on this, or I will choose Amazon Linux, right, and here I will choose Amazon Linux 2023. These are the things that has automatically been selected, right, for us. Okay, if we want some other kind of operating system, see, let me make this again very clear that it is not only a limitation that we have to choose maybe Amazon Linux itself, right, or for launching an Oracle database RDS instance, we can only launch it on an Amazon Linux. We can very easily launch it on Mac OS also. We can also launch it on the Ubuntu Linux, right? So Linux, Ubuntu is also one of the operating systems of the Linux, like one of the versions, I would say, of the Linux operating system itself, right? We can also very easily launch it on our Windows machine. Again, Red Hat, SUI Linux and Debian are nothing but a form of or a version of Linux itself, right? So if you want to use any other Linux apart from Amazon Linux, right, or any other operating system apart from Linux, if you want to go ahead with the Mac OS, if you want to go ahead with Windows OS, you can choose it according to your own requirement, right? But currently, because we are following just the documentation, right, we don't have any kind of maybe users to cater, right, or we don't have any kind of client requirement that we have to satisfy them. So in that particular case, we will just try to follow the documentation itself. And currently, this is a kind of learning that we are trying to do, right? So we will go ahead with the Amazon Linux itself. Here in the AMI, that is Amazon machine image, I will be selecting Amazon Linux 2023 with 6.1 kernel. Okay. Now under instance type, choose T2 micro. So I will come here. Okay, I can either choose T2 micro, right, or I can also choose T3 micro. So if you are having a free tier account, these two instances, that is T2 micro and T3 micro, will fall under the free tier service, right? So you can either use T2 micro or you can use T3 micro for launching your instance. I will go ahead with T3 micro. Okay. Now comes the key pair part. Okay, so under key pair login, choose the key pair name to use an existing key pair to create a new key pair for the Amazon EC2 instance. Choose create new key pair and then create new key pair window to create it. For more information about creating a new key pair, you can go on to this particular link and in the Amazon EC2 user guide. Okay, so here, if you want to create a new key pair, you can just click on this link. You can give any kind of name to the key pair. Let's suppose your name, right? You can give your name. Just don't write your name, means your name, whatever your name is, hyphen EC2, right? Oracle RDS key pair, or maybe something like this only. Okay, Oracle RDS, right? You can give this kind of key pair name. Okay. And then you can choose your key pair type. So rest of the things, let it be by default. Okay, keep this key pair type as RSA itself, and the format should be in .pem itself. Because currently, for this particular video, we will be using a tool called as MOBA Extreme to connect to our EC2 instance. Okay, if you already have a knowledge of PuTTY, that how you will be using PuTTY to connect to an EC2 instance or maybe any kind of remote server, right? If you are aware about how to use PuTTY, then in that case, you can use .ppk extension to create your key pair, and you can use PuTTY to connect to the EC2 instance. If not, if you will be blindly following this particular video, in that case, let the extension of your file be .pem itself, and then you can just click on this create key pair and it will ask you to download, and you can download your key pair and keep it safe with you, because later on we will be requiring this particular key pair to connect to our EC2 instance. Okay, because I have already created a key pair, right? So this is the key pair that I have created, that is VS17 key pair. So I will be using this key pair itself. Again, you need not create a new key pair every time you are launching an instance. Okay, let's say if you have already launched an instance and tomorrow again you have to launch an instance, right? So you can use the previous key pair itself to launch another instance, right? You need not create a new key pair every time you are launching an instance. Okay, now comes the network setting part, which is, I would say, one of the most important thing that you should understand about. So here in the network setting thing, we will have to define multiple things, right? If you remember, I was talking about that I will let you know how we will be restricting the access to our EC2 instance, right? I will if you may ask that if anyone having this endpoint of my EC2 instance can connect to this EC2 instance and then moving forward, he will be able to connect to my Oracle database instance, right? But this will not happen. And how I will restrict the connectivity to my EC2 instance, it will be done in the network setting thing. So let's understand how. So here for allow SSH traffic in network setting, choose the source of SSH connection to the EC2 instance. So you choose my IP if displayed IP address is correct for the SSH connections. Otherwise you can determine the IP address to use to connect to the EC2 instance in your VPC using secure shell, that is SSH. To determine your public IP address in a different browser or tab, you can use the service at this particular link. For example, IP address looks something like this. In many cases, you might connect through an internet service provider, that is ISP, or from behind your firewall without a static IP address. If so, make sure to determine the range of IP addresses used by the client computers. Okay. Now let's understand what it's trying to say. Okay. So let's say I am the user. Okay. Instead of this user, okay, let me say this is me, that is Vishal. Okay. Now Vishal is trying to access. Okay. Vishal is trying to access this particular. Okay. What's happening? Okay. Vishal is trying to access this EC2 instance. Okay. So will he be able to access this EC2 instance or not will be determined by how I am creating this particular security group. Okay. Here if you see, there is a section of allow SSH traffic from. Firstly, by default it is selected as anywhere. Okay. Anywhere means that anyone, okay, any user, anyone who will be having the endpoint of this particular EC2 instance will be able to connect to this EC2 instance. Now, if I try to replicate, okay, it something like this, not like this, I would say. Okay. If I say him as, let's say, user 1, okay, and let's say this is user 2, right? Obviously, all these machines will have some kind of IP addresses, right? They will have their own IP address. So let's say this is IP address 1, or let me do one thing, right? Let me just copy and paste this particular IP address. Okay. So this is not my usual, sorry, my bad. Okay. This is not my usual IP address. Okay. So this is, let's suppose Vishal's IP address, right? This is user's 1 IP address. So let me change this to .2, okay, because no two machine ideally can have the same IP address, right? And let me change it to 3, something like this. Cool. Let me come back here. Let me name it as EC2 database connect. This is fine. This is fine. T3 micro is fine. Here I will have to select this. Okay. Now, currently it is said that you can allow SSH traffic from anywhere, right? So in this particular scenario, even this Vishal will get connected, right? This connection is also fine, right? This connection is also fine from user 1, and this connection is also fine from user 2. Okay. Anyone who is having the endpoint, who is having the IP address of the EC2 instance will be able to connect to this particular EC2 instance. But I don't want this thing, because ultimately if he is able to connect to the EC2 instance, any user is able to connect to the EC2 instance, he will be able to connect to my RDS instance, right? If he fires any query on this EC2 instance, directly or indirectly, he will be able to fire the query on my Oracle database instance also, right? There will be one more tier of security, that after signing into the EC2 instance, we will also have to sign in to the Oracle client, right? So again, you should have the username and the access of Oracle client also, right? But I should also make my EC2 instance more secure, right? So for making it more secure, what I will do is, instead of this allow SSH traffic from anywhere, I will try to choose something. So let's suppose if I am choosing my IP, okay? So this is my IP address for my system, okay, for my own laptop which I'm using currently. Okay, so this is the IP address of it. So if I'm choosing my IP here, now what EC2 instance will do is it will try to block any other IP address. Okay, it will block any other IP address apart from the IP address, okay, which is currently listed here, or maybe in this case this is the IP address, right? So it will do what? It will this EC2 instance will have a kind of table. Okay, it will have a kind of IP table that will be attached to it. So I can say it as IP table. Okay, and this IP table will have the list of this IP table, right? Will have the list of okay, not this. Let me make it transparent. Okay, it will have the list of all the allowed IP addresses that can connect to this particular EC2 instance. So what it will do, right? It will have this particular IP address list. Okay, because I have currently selected my IP address here, right? I've currently selected my IP address. So in this case, only IP address of my system will be added in this particular IP table. So whenever I will try to access this EC2 machine, it will try to check this IP table, that if this particular IP is allowed to connect to the EC2 instance. So yes, this particular IP address or the machine which is having this IP address, that is 192.0.2.1/32, is allowed to connect to the EC2 instance. So this connection will be allowed, right? Now 192.0.2.2/32 is not allowed. So if user 1 is trying to do this SSH connection, right, again EC2 will try to check this IP table, right? So this IP table does not contain this particular IP address, right? So this connection will not be allowed. Again, if user 3 will allow, or maybe user 2 will allow, right, EC2 instance will try to check the IP table. So because this IP address is not there in this IP table, the connection will not be allowed. Okay, so if I am choosing my IP address, then I have made a very hard restriction here, that only using my system itself I will be able to connect to the EC2 instance. No other user in the world can connect to the EC2 instance apart from me, right? Now this is again if you are working in a collaborative environment, if you are working in an organization, in that particular case, then what's the use of a remote server, right? So what I will do is, instead of choosing my IP, right, I will be I will be choosing some kind of custom IP addresses, right? So I can choose any one of this, right? Or I can do what? I can create an existing group. Okay, I can create some kind of groups where I will try to mention a range of IP addresses. Means, let's suppose I can mention here in this IP table that, okay, like a user with this IP address, okay, and with this IP address, that is 192.2.2, should be able to connect to my EC2 instance. Now in this case, even the user 1 will try to do the SSH, he will be able to connect to this particular EC2 instance, because now I have added the IP of user 1 also to my EC2, or I would say to the security group of this EC2, which will have something called as an IP table. And here in the IP table, the IP address of the user 1's machine has also been added, and now user 1 will also be able to connect to the EC2 instance. So this is how I will try to make my EC2 instance more secure, and ultimately my Oracle database instance a more secured kind of environment to store my data in. Okay, so here currently I will try to go ahead with my IP itself, because I am very aware about this fact that no one apart from me will be using this particular EC2 instance currently, right, for this particular video, for this use case, right? So I hope you have understood this thing. Now this what I would say paragraph, if you want to understand. So this means, so if you are an internet service provider, or maybe if you are working in an organization, right? So what big organizations do is they try to attach a firewall in their network, right? And they keep on changing the IP address of their local machines also, right? So let's suppose I am an employee, right? Let's suppose I am an employee of that organization. So today my IP address is this, right? Tomorrow maybe this IP address may change. So it's not a static IP address. It will be a kind of dynamic IP address that I will be dealing with. So environment becomes more secure. Okay. Uh, the attacker, right, or the cyber fraud will have to then will have to know about the dynamic IP address of my machine, right? Because maybe tomorrow this IP address is not mine. It may be of some other person, right? So if I'm working in a dynamic IP environment, dynamic IP environment, sorry, what I'm saying. If I'm working in a dynamic IP address environment, or if I'm a ISP, that is Internet Service Provider, in that particular case, I will have a range of IP addresses. Okay, I will have some kind of range like this. That okay, my machines will have IP address range from, let's say, 192.0.0.1 till, let's suppose, 194 dot maybe 5.5.1, something like this. Okay, so my IP address can vary in this particular range. So if I'm working in a dynamic IP address environment, I can also attach that range of IP addresses in my security group. Okay, so this is what it's saying. Now there is a warning. If you use 0.0.0 for SSH access, you make it possible for all IP addresses to access your public EC2 instance using SSH. This is exactly what I was talking about. This approach is acceptable for a short time in a test environment, but it's unsafe for production environment. Okay. In production, authorize only the specific IP addresses or range of IP addresses to access your EC2 instance using SSH. So the following image shows an example of the network setting section. So this is how basically your network setting would look like, and this is how our network setting tab is exactly looking like. Okay. Now leave the default values of the remaining sections. Review the summary of your EC2 instance configuration in the summary panel. And when you are ready, choose the launch instance. Okay. So here in the storage configuration, right, you can choose how much storage do you want to attach to your EC2 instance. Currently it is 8 GB. So I believe 8 GB is more than enough for our use case. If you want to add, let's suppose 80 GB, so you can add do it something like this, that 80 and 80 GB will now be attached to your instance, but 8 GB is more than enough for current use case. Okay, so we have filled up all the details that we require to launch an instance. Now here in the summary section, you will be able to see the details, that the number of instance that we want to launch. So currently it is 1, right, and we only need 1 instance. Let's suppose if we want more than 1 instance, let's suppose if we want 5 instance, so I can write 5 here also, and it will launch 5 identical instances, whatever configuration we have chosen, but currently we require 1, so let's go ahead with 1 only. The software image that we have chosen, so we have chosen Amazon Linux 2023 AMI, right? The type of, or the instance type we have chosen is T3 micro. Firewall wise, right, so we have a new security group. Storage wise, so we have 8 GB of storage for now. Okay, now I can click on this launch instance, or else, right? If we have already talked about that there are multiple ways that AWS has provided us to connect to the services, right? We can connect using AWS CLI, we can connect using APIs, we can connect using SDKs, and obviously this console is also there, right? Now if we want to connect maybe using any kind of like any other kind of connection type, right? Maybe if we want to connect using CLI, right, and if I want to get this exact configuration instance to be launched, so this is the code that we can use. Okay, I can run this thing on the terminal, then I will be running this thing on the terminal, and then I will be running this on my terminal. Now if you want to use, let's suppose, Python SDK, right? So in that case, as we are already aware about the fact when we discussed about a Python SDK, that we will require a library called as Boto3, right? So we will first of all import Boto3, then we will import Boto core.exceptions, and then we will try to import our EC2 client, something like this. We will create the security group, we will authorize the security group, and then we will run the instance with all these parameters. That is, max count equals to 1, minimum count is this, image ID is this, right? Instance type is T3 micro, key name pair is this, EBS optimize is true, right? And all these things. So I can just directly copy and paste this particular code in my Python file, and then I can directly launch it from the code itself. But currently we will be using the console, and I will just try to click on this launch instance, and it will hardly take a few seconds to launch the instance. So you can see the initialize instance has been successful. And now if I will click on this link, so you can see the instance state is running. Okay, you can see the instance name here. This is the instance ID, instance state. What is the instance type? Status tag is just initialized, like right? If you want to create an alarm, right, based on any kind of parameter. Let's suppose if I want to create an alarm based on the uses of the CPU uses, maybe the RAM uses. Okay, we can create a alarm. Let's suppose my 8 GB storage is getting full. In that particular case, you should raise me an alarm. 80 GB of my storage has been full, so you can raise me an alarm or trigger me an email. So all these alarms I can set up from here. Availability zone, so it has deployed in AP South 1A. Then the public DNS, right, or exactly the endpoint that I was talking about here. Okay, so currently if I talk about, so this is the endpoint of my EC2 instance. So anyone who is having this particular endpoint will be able to access my EC2 instance if their IP address is there in this IP table. So currently, because I have attached the security group as my IP only, so only the machine having my IP address will be able to access even this particular endpoint. Even if I share you guys this particular endpoint, or if you try, you can already see this the endpoint, right? And if you guys will try to do an SSH connection from your machine onto this particular endpoint, you will not be able to do it. Okay, so this is the IP4 address. We don't have any kind of elastic IP. We don't have any kind of IPv6. Monitoring is disabled. Security group is this. Key pair name that we have attached to the instance is this key pair, that is the SHA-17 key pair. Launch time was this, right? So this was the launch time. Platform is Linux, managed is false, and operator is none. Okay, so these are the basic details that you can get about the EC2 instance. Now if you want to get more detail, then in that particular case what you will have to do is you will have to select an instance. So you can select an instance, something like this, and all the details related to that particular instance will be displayed to you. So here you can see a few repetitive details will be here, something like instance ID, public IPv4 address, right, private IP. So private IP for v4 address is this. Okay, so this is the public DNS, right, and the host name type, answer private resources, right, instance type, VPC ID, subnet ID, instance ARN. So auto scaling group, if I have attached to any kind of auto scaling or not. AMI details, right, monitoring is disabled, platforms, termination protection, AMI name, stop protection, and all these details, owner, right, host ID, all these stuffs are right here. If I talk about alarm and status, the exact thing that I was telling you here. So based on the actions, right, I can create some kind of alarms. Now comes the monitoring part. Okay, so CPU utilization, network in, network out, right, network packets in, network packets out, metadata token, CPU uses credit, CPU balance credit, and all these stuffs can be seen right here. Talking about the security, so you can see the IAM role, owner ID, launch time, security groups. If you want to edit any kind of security group, you can just click on this and you will be redirected to a page where you can edit inbound rules, outbound rules, any kind of sharing, VPC associations, and tags associated with this particular security group that has been attached to the EC2 instance. Okay. Then comes the networking part. So again, VPC ID, subnet ID, availability zone, right? Availability zone ID, IP addresses, so IPv4, private IPv4, then host name and DNS, so private, public DNS, private DNS, right? And all these things, all the information you will be able to see here. Storage, okay, what kind of storage are we using and all those stuffs you will be able to see here. And if any kind of tag is associated with the machine, all those information you will be getting right here. Cool. So this was pretty much it about the EC2 instance. So on the launch status page, note the identifier of the EC2 instance, for example, like this. So this instance ID is nothing but the identifier, which we will require later on. So need not worry about it. When we will require it, I will let you know. So choose the EC2 instance identifier to open the list of EC2 and then select the EC2 instances. In the detail tab, note the following values which you need when you connect using SSH. So in instance summary, note the value of public IP4 DNS. In instance detail, note the value of the EPR. Wait until the instance state of the EC2 instance has a running status before continuing. So here you can see the status instance is running. So I can continue forward. Now what we have to do is we have to create the Oracle database instance. So the basic building block of of Amazon RDS is the database instance. This environment is where you run your Oracle database. In this example, you use easy create to create a database instance running the Oracle database engine with a DB M5 large database instance class. So to create an Oracle database instance with easy create, sign into your AWS management console and open the Amazon RDS console at this particular link. So I can just directly click on this link and I will be redirected to the RDS dashboard. Cool. Now in the upper right corner of the RDS console, choose the AWS region in which you want to create the database instance. So now if I come back here and now if I check, so I am again currently in the United States North Virginia region, right? And my EC2 instance is currently in which region? It is in AP South 1, or I can say the Mumbai region. Okay, so I will have to do what? First of all, I will have to click on this drop down and I will select this Mumbai or AP South 1 region. Why? Because if I will be selecting any other region apart from Mumbai, so in that particular case, if I am doing any kind of data transfer, I will have to pay for that particular data transfer at both of the services. That is at EC2 also I will be charged on a per GB basis, as well as I will also be charged on the RDS side, right? This thing also we have already talked about. So if both of them are in the same region, means our EC2 instance and our RDS instance are in the same region, then in that particular case, we don't have to pay for the data transfer, right? If they are in the same region and in the same availability zone, right? So we will be creating our RDS in such a way that we are not getting charged for the data transfer, because currently we are not worried about the fault tolerance and the replication and all those factors, right? So we will be creating our RDS instance and our EC2 instance in the same availability zone and in the same region. Okay. In the navigation pane, choose databases. Okay, so I will come in the navigation pane and I will click on this databases. Cool. Now choose create database and make sure that easy create is chosen. Okay, so I will just click on this create database. So now you can see we have two options. We have full configuration option and we have easy create option. So it's currently saying that we should go ahead with the easy create option. Okay. Now in configuration, choose Oracle. Okay. So in configuration, I will have to choose Oracle. So I have chosen Oracle. Now for DB instance size, choose test or dev. Okay. So I have chosen dev or test as the instance size. So here in the edition, either you can choose Oracle Enterprise Edition or Oracle Standard Edition 2. Okay. So if I choose this addition, so I guess I will have to choose a larger instance size. Okay, so both of the instance size are okay. So let me choose the addition 2 itself. Why go for addition 1 when we have the newer addition? Okay. So if you are going ahead with the production, right, if you want to use the Oracle database in your production, in that particular case, it's recommended that you should go ahead with DBR5 large, which will have 2 cores of CPU, 16 GB of RAM and 400 gigs of SSD, or you can say the storage. So for this kind of machine, we will be charged 1.5 US dollars on a per hour basis. It means it's nearly equivalent to 150 rupees on a hourly basis. Now, if you want to go ahead with some kind of development only, or in a testing kind of phase, then we can go ahead with the instance size of DBM5 large, which will have 2 cores of CPUs, 8 gigs of RAM and 200 GB of storage, and we will only be charged 0.277 USD per hour basis. So again, if I do the math, so it will be near about 27 rupees on a per hour basis. Okay. So choose dev/test. For DB instance identifier, enter database test1. Okay, so let me enter this particular name. Even though if you want to enter any other name, let it be by default. It's totally fine. Hardly matters. Okay. So for master user name, enter the name of the master user or keep the default name. The create database page should look similar to the following image. So our database page is looking something similar, right? So we have our configuration. So we have chosen Oracle. Here we have chosen the standard 2. We have chosen dev/test. We have given the identifier name, and the master user is admin. If you want, you can put your name, any other name, right? If you want to, let's suppose if I want to create the master user name as Vishal, I can keep it as Vishal. It will not bother me in any way. Now to use an automatically generated password for the database instance, select auto generate a password. To enter the master password, make sure auto generated password is cleared, and then enter the same password in the master password and confirm password. So either we can also generate an automated password, or I can use AWS secret manager to manage the secrets, or else I can also go ahead with a self-managed kind of thing where I will have to enter my own password. So let's suppose I enter the password as root. So you need to remember this particular password, because moving forward, we will have to use this particular password when we will try to connect from our Oracle client to the RDS instance. Okay. So, okay, password does not match. So root. Root. Okay. Cool. So we have entered the password. So to set up a connection with the EC2 instance you created previously, open setup EC2 instance connection, and it's optional. So obviously in this case we have to set up. Okay, again password does not match. Root. Okay, right. So now the password is matched. So now you have to open this particular setup EC2 connection -optional. Okay, and here we have to click on this connect to EC2 resource. So select connect to EC2 resource compute. Choose the EC2 instance you created previously. Okay, so I will come here, and using this drop down, I will select the EC2 instance to which I want to connect my RDS instance. Okay, now we are creating this particular connection from our EC2 instance to this RDS instance. Okay, and here I will choose. So be careful if you are having multiple EC2 instances. So just come here and verify the name of the EC2 instance, and here also you will be able to see the name of your EC2 instance, that is EC2-database-connect, right? And you need to choose the appropriate EC2 instance for connecting to this RDS. So here, once we attach an EC2 instance, we will get a message that some VPC setting cannot be changed when a compute resource is added. Adding an EC2 compute resource automatically selects the VPC database subnet group, and the public access settings for this particular database. To allow the EC2 instance to access the database, a VPC security group with RDS EC2-X is added to the database, right? The exact thing that we were talking about here, right? And another called EC2 RDSX to the EC2 instance. Again, we have talked about it earlier itself, that EC2-RDSX will be added to our EC2 instance. You can remove the new security group of the database only by removing the compute resource. Okay, so if we want any kind of any other security group to be attached to our RDS, in that particular case, we will have to detach our EC2 instance, right? But currently we require that particular thing, means we require our EC2 instance to be attached. So we will let AWS to handle the security group part of it. Now open view default settings for easy create. So you can click on this, right? And you will be able to see all the things here. So the configuration of encryption is like what is the configuration, what is the value, and if that configuration is editable after the database has been created or not is given here. So configuration, if I talk about the encryption, so encryption is enabled and we cannot disable the encryption once we have created the database. VPC is this, and we will not be able to change the VPC, right? Because you can see here also, we will only be able to attach any other VPC only if we detach the EC2 instance. So currently we are doing a single availability zone deployment. Okay, so here that's the reason multi availability zone is no. I can for sure edit it after the database has been created. Option group is this, it is again editable. Subnet group is this, we can also edit the subnet group. Automated backup is enabled and it's editable after creating the database. VPC security group is this and it's again editable. Public accessibility is no, means we directly, anyhow, even though we are aware about the endpoint of this particular EC2 instance, like me also, right? Me as a Vishal, right? I will not be directly able to connect to this particular EC2 instance. So this connection is never allowed. Okay, this connection is never allowed, I would say, for anyone. Okay, so I will have to always connect to this EC2 instance in order to connect to my RDS instance. Okay, so that's what here it is, that publicly accessible is no. Database endpoint is this. Database port is this. Database instance identifier is this. Database engine version is this. Database parameter group monitoring type is standard. Performance insight is enabled. Monitoring is also enabled. Maintenance auto miner version upgrade is enabled and delete protection is not enabled. Okay, so these are the things that we are looking here right now. Now you can examine the default settings used in the easy create. The editable after database is created column shows which options you can change after you create the database. So if the setting has no in that column, you want a different setting, use the standard create to create the database instance. Now if I want to disable my encryption, or if I want to basically add some other VPC, right? So I will have to go ahead with the full configuration option or the standard create option. Okay, standard create is equivalent to the full configuration option. Its name has been changed to full configuration. Now, so if the setting has yes in that column and you want a different setting, you can either choose standard create to create the database instance or modify the database instance after you have created it to change the setting. Now choose create database. To view the master username and password of the database instance, choose view credential details. You can use the username and password that appears to connect to the database as the master user. It is important, you cannot view the master password again. If you don't record it, you might have to change it. So if you need to change the master user password after the database instance is available, you can modify the instance to do so. For more information, you will have to go to this particular link. Now in the database list, choose the name of the Oracle DB. So now let's first of all create our database instance. So I will click on this create database. Okay. So it will start launching my database instance. So it will take a few minutes to launch the database instance because it will have to do multiple things. So you can see right here, your database might take a few minutes to launch. Then you can use these settings and all those things to finish creating your database for you. So we will have to wait for a few minutes. Okay, so even the Wi-Fi is up now, so I will be able to do the things in a faster way. Still in the process and still under development. Taking a long time to get it created. Mostly these enterprise version databases, they tend to take a longer time to get created. So let's wait for another few minutes. Okay, so now I can see that my database is enabled, is available, right? So my database is now available. So I will be doing here what? In the database list, choose the name of the new Oracle database instance to show its details. The database instance has a status of creating until it's ready to use. Okay. So here now you can see the status has been available. So when the status changes to available, you can connect to the database instance. Depending on the database instance class and the amount of storage, it can take up to 20 minutes before the new instance is available, right? So it usually takes this much of time. It's pretty normal, so don't worry about it. While the database instance is being created, you can move on the next step to create an EC2 instance. Okay. So currently we don't have to go ahead with the cloud formation thing. Now let's go with the step 3, that is connect your SQL client to the database instance. So you can use any standard SQL application to connect to the database instance. In this example, you connect to the Oracle database instance using the Oracle command line client. Okay, so we will be using a CLI client, a CLI kind of client, that is a terminal kind of client, to connect to our Oracle database instance in this particular case. So to connect to an Oracle database instance, find the endpoint, that is the DNS name and the port number of your database instance. So we can find the DNS name where? First of all, sign in to your AWS console or open the RDS thing, right? So this is our RDS. In the upper right corner, choose the RDS console and the AWS region for the database instance. So we are already aware about the fact that we had created our database instance in the Mumbai region, right? Then in the navigation pane, choose databases. Then choose the Oracle database instance name to display its details. Okay, so I will just select on this particular database, right? And you will be able to see. So you can upgrade to this multi-tenant architecture. Okay, currently I don't require it, so let me close it. Okay, so here you can see in connectivity and security tab, there is something as endpoint and port. Okay, so on the connectivity tab, copy the endpoint. Also note the port number. You will need both the endpoint and the port number to connect to the database instance. Now, first of all, connect to the EC2 instance that you created earlier by following the steps in your this particular guide. We recommend that you connect the EC2 instance using SSH. If the SSH client utility is installed on Windows, Mac, or Linux, you can connect to the instance using the following command format. Okay, so for connecting to the EC2 instance, right, we will need a tool called as MOBA Extreme. So you can search for MOBA Extreme, okay, TREM, download for Windows or something like this, right? And you will be redirected to this particular page where you can download this home edition or the free edition of the MOBA Extreme. You can download it, then just do next, just like you install any other software, right? And it will be installed onto your system. After installing it onto your system, you can just come in the search bar and search for MOBA Extreme. Okay, and a page something like this will appear. Now you can click on this start local terminal, and you can click on the start local terminal and you will be redirected to some kind of directory. Now you need to move to the directory, or even if not, you can just enter the location of your PEM file which you have downloaded, right, when you created the key pair. When you created the new key pair while initializing the EC2 instance, we downloaded the PEM file, right? So either you will have to enter the location of the PEM file, right, or you can directly go to the path in which your PEM file is there. So my PEM file is directly on my desktop. Okay, you can see here vs17.keypair.pem, right? So I will come here in my terminal. I will just do what? CD desktop. Okay, and if I do ls, you can see the PEM file is here. Now I will use this SSH command to connect to my EC2 instance. Okay, so for that I will have to do what? SSH hyphen I. Okay, I will have to enter the name of my PEM file. So the name of my PEM file is vs17 pair.pem. Okay, and then ec2 hyphen user at the rate the DNS name. So I can just copy this DNS name. Okay, so ec2 it's ec2 hyphen user. Okay, ec2 hyphen user at the rate, and then I will have to pass the DNS here. That's it, and I will just press enter. So it can take a few seconds to get it connected. Okay, it's saying connection time out. Okay. Is there any issue? I have attached something about the key pair, right? So VS17 key pair. Location of the PEM file, username.dns name. Hyphen I keypair.pem ec2 user. Okay, let me do one thing. Let me just copy this command, paste it here. Here I enter my this. Here I should enter my file name. Let me copy it from here. Come back to my terminal. If I do one more ls, so yeah, PEM file is available. I paste it here. So ssh hyphen I c2 hyphen user. Everything seems fine. When internet is fine, then what's the issue? Connect to the host. Connection fine. Yeah. Status is fine. Then what's the issue with this EC2 instance? Okay, let me do one thing. Okay, the other thing that we can do, guys, is okay. Let me do one thing. Some checks are fine. This is totally fine. Maybe it should get connected EC2 user at the rate 15206. If I go to details, 15206 173 185, right? 173 185. AP South 1 is fine. .compute.aws.com. AP South 1 fine. I have just copy and pasted it. What's the issue then? Okay. Okay, let me do one thing. Let me do what I can also do is I can just click on this connect button. Okay. And then also using a public IP, or I can just click on this SSH client. Okay. And I will be able to connect to this thing. So if I just click on this, and if I paste it here, will not get connected, else it would had been till now. Connection timeout. Okay, no worries. I will do what? I will just go to this EC2 instance connect. Okay. And using the public IP address, I will try to connect to my EC2. Okay. I will just click on this connect and let's see if I am able to connect using this EC2 connect or not. Establishing connection. Fail to the connect to instance. Establishing EC2 connection instance. Try again later. Okay. Mistake while launching the instance or what? Let me do one thing. Let me change my internet. Okay. Now if I try to do, it's surprising why it's not able to connect. Connected to compute resource, it has connected absolutely fine in this case also. Try session manager SSM is not online. Hmm, is it some issue with AWS or what? Not exactly. Most of the cases, the default username is EC2 is correct. Yes, however, need to connect to the so ssh-i, okay, dot pem. Yeah, we are doing the same thing till now also. Not able to connect if I click on connect. Okay, failed to connect to the instance. Okay, let me do one thing. Not very sure, but let me try to create a new instance. Let me try to launch a new instance. So let's say I name this instance as RDS ORACLE Oracle. Okay, and we have to select Amazon itself, right? This is fine. T3 micro is fine. Required is VS17 key pair. It's fine. Create security group. Okay, I will add here as my IP. Okay, and here I will do what? 8 GB is fine and GP3 is fine. Okay, and okay, let me do one more thing. If I come here, check my IP 103 48 197 89 197 89. Yes, my IP is correct. Okay, so I will attach here as my IP and all of these stuffs are done, and I will try to launch this instance. Cool, so the instance has been launched. Okay, the RDS Oracle instance has been launched. Okay, now I will have to launch even another database instance. right? So I will do what? Let me create another database, Oracle. Okay. Why I am not deleting the previous one is because, okay, I will go for easy create for now. Okay, addition to is because I will check for what is the issue that has happened. Okay, identifier, let it be, let's suppose database Oracle. Okay, master username, let me put it as Vishal. Let me make it as close as possible to the earlier one. Root, root. Okay, root, root. Okay, master password is root, root. Okay. Now set up the EC2 connection, set up a connection with compute resource, and now we have to select the other one which we have launched right now. That is this EC2 Oracle instance, right? And its instance ID is at the end it is 273, right? And even we can try to figure out with the name also. So here if I will click on the drop down, at the bottom you can also see the name RDS Oracle instance, and here you can see the instance ID. So we have to connect to this instance. Okay, so I can view the default settings. So yeah, default settings are fine, and I will click on this create database. So again, it will take, I guess, those 10-15 minutes to get it launched, right? So you can directly skip, okay, if there is no kind of cut that has been made. So you can directly skip on to after like 10-15 minutes where I start discussing about the concepts. Or else you will have to wait for like 10 minutes, 15 minutes to get it created. Okay, so the deployment and the connection between the database is successful. You can see and read the message here, right? Successfully set up the connection between the RDS instance and the Oracle database, and you can use the settings of the database Oracle for simply simplify the configuration and finish your databases up to you. Okay, so still the status is into configuring, right? It will, I guess, take another 1 or 2 minutes for the status of it to be changed into available, and then we will start trying the same thing using our new architecture. So let me scroll down here. That is this. Okay, so let the status of the database become available, and then we will try to connect to our EC2 instance and do the further things. Mm. Okay, cool guys. So you can now see that our database is now available. Let's do one thing now. Let's come here in the instance, select this instance, click on connect, SSH client, copy this particular code, and let's get back here, right? And if I will press enter, cool. So now you can see that we are able to connect to our SSH client. Maybe there was some kind of error that I had made while creating the instance. So let me do one thing guys. So firstly, let me delete these instances which I am not using so that I am not charged for any unwanted resource. Okay, so I will delete this also, and here database test one also I will, sorry, not create database, what am I doing, actions and delete. So I will let you know each and everything when I will show you how to delete later on. Currently I am just deleting it. Okay, so okay, cool. So these two resources are deleted, and now we have one EC2 instance and one database instance for us. Okay, so that we don't get charged. That's the only reason. So now we have connected to our EC2 instance. Now you can see that EC2 user at the rate. This is the IP address of my EC2 instance. Cool. So to get the latest bug fixes and security updates by updating the software in your EC2 instance, to do so, use the following command. So here sudo dnf update -y. So I can just copy this particular command, paste it here, and press enter. So here you can see no dependencies, dependencies resolved, nothing to do and completed. Okay. And now if I'll come here, so in the web browser, go to this particular link. Okay. Done. From the latest, for the latest database version that appears on the web page, copy the .rpm links, not the zip links. Okay, so for the latest, so this is the latest one. I will expand it and I will copy the RPM link. Okay, so basic package, basic light package. So this one, right? OL10 RPM, and this is the RPM link that is there. Okay, so I will copy the RPM link of the instant client base package and SQL plus package. Okay, instant client package I will have to install. So where is instant client package? Okay, visit India maybe. So yes, here you can see instant instant client basic. Okay, so here I have to install what? Instant client basic package and SQL plus package. For example, the following link of the database for the version 21.9 will be something like this. Okay, so instant client OTN is not there, right? Download.oracle. Okay, this is here. Okay, SQL. Okay, no, this is SQL package only. It should be instant client plus SQL, right? Or is it? Okay, both of them will be different. Cool, 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 cool. Both of them will be different. So I will have to install this one first, and then I will have to install SQL plus package, that is this one. Cool. So in your SSH connection, in your SSH session, run the wget command to download the .rpm files from the link that you obtained in the previous step. The following example shows the .rpm and this. Okay, so I will do what? I will come here again. I will do wget and I will just copy this particular link. That is this one, basic package one. Here, come here and paste it. Press enter. Okay, unable to resolve the host thing. Okay, let me do one thing. Let me open first of all this one. Okay, this will be the link. Open in a new tab. This link, okay, I can get it something like this. Okay, let me do this inspect. Okay, and this is the link that we have to copy. So I can not zip one. Okay, I have to do the RPM one. Getting not the light basic. Okay. This is the one, and this is the href they are talking about. Okay, copy link address. Okay, and now I will come here, wget, and I will paste the link here. Okay, so it's downloaded. Now I'll have to do the same thing for SQL package. Sorry, SQL package plus also. So this is the one. I will come here, open this div, and I will copy address link. I will come back to the terminal, wget, and I will paste it here. Okay, so both of them are now downloaded. I can close this. So install the package by running the DNF commands as shown, something like this. So I will just copy it and paste it here. So yes, install. Okay, so the installation is now completed. Now start the SQL Plus and connect the Oracle database instance. For example, enter the following command. Substitute the database instance. Okay, so I have to run something like this, that is SQL Plus admin @ okay. So instead of admin, I will have to replace my master username. That is, in my case, it is Vishal, right? It can be something else in your case. Then @ I have to put the endpoint of my database. Okay. So substitute the database instance endpoint, that is the DNS name for Oracle database instance endpoint, and substitute the master username for your user for admin. When you use easy create for Oracle, the database name is a database, and provide the master password which you prompted for a password. Okay, so let me copy it, paste it here. Okay, so instead of admin, it's Vishal, right? And instead of this, let me open it, copy the endpoint, and instead of this Oracle DB endpoint, let me paste it here. Okay, and let me copy this whole thing, come back to my terminal and paste it here. I will enter the password. So password was nothing but root, right? So ROOT. Keep in mind, you will not be shown any character here. Means you will not be even shown the star and all those things, that how many characters or what is the thing that you have entered here. So just enter root and enter, click enter, and now you can see we are inside our SQL client, right? You can see clearly here. Now we are into the SQL client, and now if I go back here, so after you have entered the password for the user, you should see output similar to the following, something like this. So yes, we have achieved the same thing. For more information about connecting to the RDS for Oracle database instance, see connect to your database instance. And if you cannot connect to the database instance, you can go on to this link. So because we have successfully created it, there is no use to go on to that particular link. For security, it's a best practice to use encrypted connections. Only use an unencrypted Oracle connection when the client and the server are in the same VPC and the network is trusted. For more information, you can go on to that particular link. Now run SQL commands. For example, following SQL command shows the current date and time. So let me just copy this particular command, come back here, paste it, not twice, just once. Let me run it. Unknown beginning SPE. Select system date from dual. Sorry guys. Okay, let me do one thing. Let me exit, connect to the database again, root. Okay, and now let me enter it. Okay, so now you can see the system date, that is 20th Jan 2026. On the same date that I am recording this particular video, you can very clearly see that the date has been mentioned here. Now whatever we want to do, right, we will be very easily able to do it. Okay, so let's say we have to create a database. Okay, so in that case, what we will have to do is we will have to write a query, something as, okay, create database. Let me do one thing. Let me just copy and paste it here. Okay. Your database, the database is already mounted. Okay. So what I can do is, in this case is, if I do show databases, I believe this is what we have in Oracle. Show databases in Oracle. Okay, so it's select name from, select name from, okay, v dollar data. Okay. Okay, so the name is database here. So now if I want to use this particular database, then do what? If we use database or maybe create a new database. Okay, create a new database in the database. Okay, pretty interesting. So here what we can do is, or so connect to RDL database master user, for example, something like this. Create a new schema. Okay, so we will have to create a new schema. So before that, we will have to create a new user. Okay, so create user appdb identified by appdb123. Now we will have to grant some kind of privileges. So grant connect. I will have to do grant connect, comma, resource to app underscore db. Okay, grant succeeded. And other grant that I will give is of create table, view, create view, and create sequence. Okay, or else I can do is grant all the privileges. Okay, we are getting here the admin right error, no issues. Okay, now I will use is connect to app database and this. Okay, so DNS service name is incorrectly identified. Verify select user from this. Okay, let me do select user from dual not connected. Wait once. Root. Okay, select user from dual. The user is Vishal. Okay, select username from all underscore user. Okay, okay. Okay, guys, so here I can see in chat GPT, right, it's prompting that we will not be able to create our new database or our another database inside Oracle. Okay, if I bring it here, so you can very clearly see, you cannot create a new Oracle database in AWS RDS. So this is a hard AWS limitation on Oracle RDS. AWS creates one Oracle database instance. You cannot get system or DBA. Create database is not allowed. Okay, so that's the reason we are getting all these kind of issues, because again, Oracle is a kind of I would say uh, an enterprise uh, database system, right? Enterprise database system means Oracle is a organization which has created the database and it's maintaining that particular database, and it's a kind of license based database. It's not an open source database, right? So it has some few limitations over it, right? And for those reasons we are not able to basically do the same things that we are able to do with MySQL or maybe Postgres. Okay, so I hope this is how like our main agenda here was not to learn about Oracle database, our main agenda was to basically launch an RDS instance which is having an Oracle database instance associate, or I would say Oracle database engine, right, attached to that particular instance. Okay, so we have successfully done that part. I will just do what? I will just write exit so that I have exited uh, to my EC2 instance. Okay, cool. So I believe you guys have understood the part that how we will be able to basically launch our EC2 instance, right? Connect to our EC2 instance, and then we will have to install some Oracle clients, and then we will be able to connect to our Oracle database instance. Now let's see that how we will be able to delete the instance. Okay, it's very, very important so that we don't get charged. Okay, so let me bring this down. Cool. Let me refresh it. So here you can see this is our EC2 instance that we have created. So I will just select this particular EC2 instance, go to instance state, and I will just click on this terminate state button, right? Oh, sorry, terminate instance button. Just don't try to stop the instance, else you will be charged, right, for the network part and for the storage part that you have attached to this particular instance. Okay, so even though you have stopped the instance, you will incur some minimal charges. So just don't try to stop it. Just click on terminate. Okay, so terminate instance and just click on this terminate or delete instance, and it will take a few seconds to delete it. Same thing I'll be doing here in our RDS instance also. I will go to databases. I will select the RDS instance I want to delete. Go to my actions button and click on this delete. Now you have to make sure that you have to uncheck this create final snapshot. You have to uncheck this retain automated backups thing, and you have to check this I acknowledge thing, right? And then you have to write here as delete me. Okay, and just click on this delete button. So now you have initiated the deletion of the database instance also. One more thing that I would like to highly emphasize is, though if you are using some kind of shared account, don't try to delete any other resource that you are not aware of, right? If you have yourself created that particular resource, only then delete it. Else don't try to delete whatever instance is it if it is in running state, if it is in idle state, if it is in stop state, whatever it is, let it be. Don't try to touch uh, any other I would say machine, I can say, right, or any other service, right, which you are not aware about. So don't delete it, because it may be someone's years of hard work that you will be deleting in a few seconds only. So here you can see termination is successful. If I come here and refresh it, so no matching found means we have successfully deleted the instances. Okay, even if I come to dashboard, so you should see that there are no instances running. Okay, deleting this database instance will again take a few seconds, not a few seconds, I will say hardly a few minutes, right? It will not take that much time, how much time it took to create the database instance. Okay, again, it is recommended that you, after deleting the resource, whatever you have created, it is good, and it's a good practice that you cross check on it that all your resources are deleted, because even if you forget and even if you do a carelessness one time, right, you may get charged thousands and multiple thousands of rupees just for one single carelessness. Okay, so if you are someone, right, who doesn't want that you should be charged, uh, I would say, for not using the resources, right? Even if you are using the resources, you are learning things, and then if you are getting charged thousands of rupees, it's totally fine, right? At least we learned something, we invested that money. But if you are just getting charged for running the machine on an idle thing, right, in that case it hurts a bit. So don't make this particular mistake, I would say, and just spare 1 or 2 more minutes so that you can cross check that all the resources that you have created is deleted. So again, it will take, I guess, 1 or 2 minutes. Okay. So now here you can see that there are no resources to display, and we have successfully deleted the database instance, right? And you can just, if you refresh it, so no resources to display. Now we are pretty sure that we will not be charged even a single penny for any of the resource that we have created in this particular video, right? So again, as I said, it's a good practice to always cross check, right, if you have terminated or if you have deleted your resources correctly or not. Cool. So, okay, cool. Cool. So, this was pretty much it, guys, for this particular video. I hope you guys learned something new in this video. I will see you in the next one. Till then, keep learning and keep growing. Bye bye.